Hello and welcome back to a new video. We're back on the 110. As you can see, I've been busy removing the front and also removing this mess, which was the 1980 spec immobiliser alarm. We've got a fresh battery, but the alternator isn't doing what it should. It's either not charging at all or it's putting 18 volts into this, which isn't going to do it any good whatsoever. So we need to look into why and probably replace that alternator. So no time to waste, let's get on with it. Because most of the work we're doing to the 110 is at the front, I've taken off the wings and the bonnet for access, and so we can show you lovely people exactly what we're doing. We've got welding to do on the footwells. We're not doing that today. We're going to concentrate on the alternator. We've got electrics to do inside, and then if we get time, we're going to do the dampers because they are all shot. So there's no time to waste. Let's go. We've got a brand new battery for the 110. We're spoiling it. So I'm going to drop this into the tray, connect the positive first, then the earth, and then I'm going to start it up and just see what that old alternator is doing, because I don't have high hopes for it. Whoop. Oh, she's like a Swiss Ross, Stevie. Okay. As you will have just seen, the alternator which is fitted at the moment either does no charging or way too much charging, which is going to boil up that battery in no time at all. Luckily, I have a replacement. This isn't the original engine, so I'm really hoping this is the right one, but we're going to find out. So I'm going to bust the spanners out and fit this bad boy. The old alternator is unbolted from the engine. We've taken the cables off. These are only a 45 amp alternator, so they don't have a big thick cable like most modern ones. They just have this plug. I'm going to fit the new one. We'll run the engine again. Hopefully this will charge at just above 14 volts, which is the correct voltage for this alternator. So, onwards. So a couple of bolts and a couple of plugs later, the new alternator is in place. I'm going to start the engine back up and make sure it's charging at the correct voltage, which is between 13 and 14 volts. So, no time to waste. Needs more glow. Hello, we're back outside. I'm really pleased with that alternator. We're now charging at the correct voltage, which means we're not causing any potential harm to the battery and the other electrical systems. Next, because the weather's nice, we're going to jack the front up, support it on axle stands, and we're going to change the front dampers and the front brakes. And also get rid of the completely rotten tyres, because they're not going to pass an MOT. So onwards. So next up, we need to jack the front of the Land Rover up and support it on axle stands. If you've jacked the front of one of these up before, you'll know that the diff is offset on the axle. So when you do jack it up under there, the axle tilts. It's a pain to get the axle stands underneath. What you need is one of these from Sealy. You put your jack pad on one side, you put this little bracket under the axle, and it lifts it evenly. So you can just slide the axle stand underneath. Beautiful. Let's go. There we go. Whoop. Shall I lower her down onto the stands? Obviously I've not driven this on the road yet because it's not road legal, but when it got delivered to my house, the back end was bouncing up and down like a kangaroo, so I think all the shocks probably do need replacing. I've gone for Girling ones from the authentic classic range sold by Britpart and through Britpart retailers. So, first job is to clean up the turret ring so we can unbolt the turret from the chassis. Top tip for these, take your time cleaning up all the exposed threads with a wire brush and then treat them with some light oil because the studs are prone to snapping off, and then you need to buy new turret rings, which is even more stripping down. So we're going to do that, unbolt the turret ring, unbolt the lower mount, and then we can change the dampers. Thankfully, all 4 nuts came off that turret ring, so that means one fewer thing to replace. So to undo the lower damper nut, you want the correct size spanner, in this case a 19mm. Get it seated nicely on the nut, and then if you're replacing the dampers anyway, you don't have to be too cautious about how you undo them. So get yourself a nice big pair of grips, get on the damper body, locate the spanner, and just turn the shock like that. It's a whole lot quicker and easier than trying to hold the damper and turn the nut. We've retrieved the old lower bush from the damper. The nut is off, which means we can lift it out just like that. Oh wow, look how worn the bottom of the damper is. That's where the bush has failed, and this has ridden forward and worn on the bracket. So it's just as well we're changing these. Although actually the damper action isn't bad, but eventually that would have snapped off, so new ones. Next up, we need to take the old damper off the turret, and there's 2 nuts on the top. One that actually holds the bush, and then a lock nut. Later ones had a nylock, this has 2. So we'll use a socket on there, and probably an impact gun. Don't use a chrome socket with an impact gun. And then we'll take the old damper out and fit the new one. There's the first one. Bit of prising with a screwdriver, and the top bush and washer comes off, and then a bit more of a wiggle. The old damper simply slides out of the turret like that. And then we're going to give this a bit of a clean up with a wire brush, fit the new damper, put it back in, and onto the other side. The new damper is fitted to the turret, and we've bolted the turret back onto the chassis. Now I'm tightening up the lower nut, and as you will see, I'm very carefully holding the damper with the same grips, but also I've got a little microfiber cloth wrapped around it. I'm not turning the body, I'm turning the nut, so we don't damage anything. These dampers do have a flat on the end, which you can put a spanner on, but to be honest, they never really work that well, so I prefer to do it this way. Being the early style calipers, the pads are held in with these split pins rather than the steel pins of the later ones, just a little note. So yes, we're going to do discs, we're going to do pads. These are really old and crispy, so we're going to replace these. But what is nice is the brakes haven't actually been seized on. The calipers do actually move, so we're going to thoroughly flush the brake fluid, and hopefully we won't have to replace them, because if the brake fluid doesn't have water in, they won't be corroded, there's no need to. So we're going to crack on with stripping this, and we'll join you in a bit. Right, so the old brake flexi is off. These should be changed every 6 years, not that anyone does, but I don't know how long these have been on there, so we've got new ones. Now I'm unbolting the caliper, which will let us then unbolt the drive flange, get the wheel bearing apart, and then we can remove the hub and disc and swap the disc over. As you can see, we've got the flexible line off, which we're going to replace. We've got the caliper off, which we're going to push the pistons back, get all the old fluid out. And I've undone the drive flange and the wheel bearing preload nuts. So now we can get the hub off and unbolt the disc from the back. Oh no, I didn't want that to happen. Never mind. Off we come. So there we go. And there's the 5 bolts in there that hold the disc to the hub. As you can see, we've taken the brake disc off the hub, and we've also taken the wheel bearings out because they weren't in very good condition. Luckily, I had a spare pair on the shelf, so we're going to put this back together with fresh bearings, fit the new disc, get it back on the stub axle. The hub is back together, the new disc is on, so now our caliper with fresh pads and completely emptied of old brake fluid can now be fitted over the top, taking care not to damage the brake pipe, and then bolted on. Here we are then, one corner complete. New Girling damper, Britpart XS discs and Mintex pads, and new wheel bearings. So, the first of 5 good years on Wolf wheels, a whole lot more legal than what came off, and hopefully will get us through an MOT. So let's get it on. So, end of day 1. We've got quite a lot done. There's still a lot more to do. Things like the fan heater motor, which doesn't turn. But yeah, new alternator, new shocks, new brakes, new wheel bearings. We're heading in the right direction. Join us next time when you can see the next load of jobs we've got to do on the 110. Catch you next time.